Welcome to a special installment of Tales from the Longbox. This is the first in a series of Halloween specials, where future videos will tackle vampires, cursed heroes, pumpkin-headed terrors, and other haunting figures. Tonight I start with the ghostly rogues and spectral heroes who define fear, mystery, and the strange magic that only comics can conjure. So dim the lights, get nice and cozy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's step into the shadowy world of comic book ghosts. Deadman, the body-hopping Avenger. Deadman first appeared in Strange Adventures number 205, way back in 1967, created by Arnold Drake and Carmine Infantino. His real name is Boston Brand, a circus acrobat whose stage persona, complete with a red costume and ghostly corpse makeup, made him look like Death on the Trapeze. That became more than an act when he was murdered mid-performance by an assassin only known as the Hook. Instead of moving on, Boston was bound to Earth by the Hindu goddess Ramakrishna, cursed, or perhaps blessed, to walk as a ghost who could possess the living. At its core, Deadman's story is about justice and unfinished business. He spends his afterlife fighting crime by literally hijacking bodies, whether it's a cop, a crook, or even another hero, turning their own hands against evil. Neil Adams' legendary run defined the character, giving him a noir edge and a tragic sense of isolation that made him far more than a supernatural gimmick. His search for his killer led him into conspiracy, mystical societies, and ultimately the realization that his death was just the beginning of a much larger journey. Over the decades, Deadman's wandered through nearly every shadowy corner of the DC universe. He's crossed paths with Jack Kirby's Forever People, drifted through Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, and became a staple of the magical team Justice League Dark. In Day of Judgment, he was literally dragged through hell. In Blackest Night, he was forced to watch his own corpse reanimated as a Black Lantern. And in Brightest Day, he carried a White Lantern ring that gave him a taste of life again, forcing Boston to wrestle with the uncomfortable truth that he might actually belong among the dead after all. Deadman's powers are deceptively simple but haunting. As a ghost, he's intangible and invisible, but his signature ability is possession. He can slip into any living body, control them completely, and sometimes even access their memories. Later, with the White Lantern ring, he briefly gained godlike powers. Teleportation, healing, energy constructs, but at the heart of it all, he's still a lonely spirit searching for a purpose. Few comic book ghosts embody the idea of haunting like Deadman does. He isn't just a hero who died, he's a man caught between worlds, forever wrestling with fate, duty, and what it means to keep fighting when the world has already moved on without you. It's that blend of horror, tragedy, and heroism that makes Boston Brand one of the most endearing spirits in all of comics. Phantom Rider, the true ghost of the Old West. Long before Marvel's supernatural biker ever roared across the page, the Ghost Rider rode on horseback through the Old West. That figure was Carter Slade, introduced in Ghost Rider number 1 way back in 1967 by Gary Frederick, Roy Thomas, and Dick Ayers. When Marvel introduced the supernatural motorcycle-riding Ghost Rider in 1972, they changed the Western's hero's name to Phantom Rider to avoid confusion between the two characters. Clad in phosphorescent white garb given to him by Flaming Star, a Native American shaman, Carter struck fear into bandits by looking like an avenging specter. His legend spread fast, but what began as smoke and mirrors and glowing dust would over time take on an eerily literal twist. After Carter's heroic death in Western Gunfighters number 7, the mask passed briefly to his ally, Jamie Jacobs, before settling on Carter's brother, Lincoln Slade, a U.S. Marshal. But unlike Carter, Lincoln's story was defined by corruption and obsession. His eventual assault on Mockingbird and West Coast Avengers left him dead at the bottom of a cliff. But death wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of the Phantom Rider's true ghost story. Because unlike most Marvel legacies, the Phantom Rider isn't just a costume passed down. It's a curse. In Ghost Rider Volume 2, number 56 and 57, Carter's descendant and archaeologist, Hamilton Slade, unearthed his ancestors' remains. Instead of finding history, he found himself possessed. Carter's ghost forced Hamilton into the saddle, transforming him into a new Phantom Rider against his will. Worse, Lincoln's vengeful spirit often surfaced through him. Driven by hatred for Mockingbird, Hamilton became a literal battlefield for the souls of his ancestors. One righteous, one corrupted, while his own will was constantly suppressed. The cycle didn't end there. Years later, in Hawkeye and Mockingbird, Hamilton's daughter, Jamie Slade, examined a Slade family urn and became Lincoln's next victim. Possessed by her ancestor, Jamie was transformed into a phantom rider, twisted by Lincoln's obsessions, even fighting against Hawkeye and Mockingbird while her own soul was buried beneath his. For the Slades, the white costume was no longer a heroic symbol. It was a family curse that invited their dead to hijack the living. This element of ghostly possession makes the Phantom Rider stand apart from other Western heroes. Carter Slade began as a man using the illusion of a ghost to frighten criminals, but over the decades the story inverted. Now the mask often represents an actual haunting, a legacy where descendants are stripped of agency and ridden like horses by the spirits of their forebears. Few Marvel characters embody the idea of being literally haunted by your past, quite like the Phantom Rider. Casper, the friendliest ghost in comics. Casper is one of the most iconic friendly spirits in comics. First appearing in Casper the Friendly Ghost #1 from St. John Publications in 1949. Unlike most ghosts in fiction, Casper is a good ghost. Kind-hearted, empathetic, and eager to help others, much to the annoyance of his mischievous uncles, the Ghostly Trio. While most ghosts delight in frightening the living, Casper prefers friendship and kindness over fear, making him a unique presence in the supernatural comic landscape, and one of the earliest good ghosts in American pop culture. In his earliest stories, Casper struggles with his ghostly identity, often inadvertently frightening the very people he wishes to befriend. Whether trying to make friends with children or help lost animals, his ghostly nature creates both comedic and poignant moments. Casper possesses classic ghost powers. He can pass through walls, float through objects, and vanish at will. He sometimes wears a sheet-like form so that other humans can see him, but this is less a disguise than a tool to interact with the living. These abilities allow him to navigate a world that often misunderstands or fears him, giving him a subtle but powerful form of agency in his adventures. One of the recurring elements in Casper's stories is his clever use of his powers for altruistic purposes. Unlike many supernatural characters, his abilities are not for intimidation or personal gain. Instead, he uses them to protect the vulnerable, outsmart bullies, and intervene in dangerous situations. From rescuing children trapped in perilous circumstances to outmaneuvering other mischievous ghosts, Casper demonstrates that his ghostly form is as much a gift as it is a challenge, even when facing his uncles, who prefer the traditional ghostly pastime of scaring people. Casper manages to achieve his goals without cruelty, often turning the tables on their schemes through ingenuity and compassion. After Harvey Comics acquired the rights in 1952, Casper's adventures became more structured and widely distributed. His stories emphasize themes of friendship, morale lessons, and the importance of empathy. The comics often followed a recognizable formula. Casper would encounter a person or creature in need. His efforts would initially go awry due to his ghostly nature, and he would ultimately succeed, earning acceptance and friendship. Over the years, this formula reinforced Casper's image as a gentle, persistent hero whose ghostly powers were consistently applied in the service of good. Casper's design evolved along with his storytelling. Early St. John Publications depicted him as slightly pudgy and cartoonish, while Harvey Comics slimmed him down and gave him more expressive features. Despite these visual changes, his core character remained the same: a friendly, invisible ghost whose abilities, passing through walls, interacting with the material world, and invisibility, were tools for kindness rather than fear. These powers, combined with his enduring optimism and empathy, made him a distinctive figure among supernatural comic characters, and helped maintain his popularity across decades, influencing everything from television adaptations to films. Even decades after his debut, Casper continues to resonate with audiences as a symbol of goodness, cleverness, and the idea that true strength lies in helping others, not frightening them. His ghostly form, once a source of isolation, becomes his means of connecting with the world, making him one of the most enduringly charming and beloved ghosts in comic book history. Ghost, the spirit who solved her own murder. Elisa Cameron isn't your typical ghost. She isn't haunting a single house or scaring kids on Halloween. She's walking through walls, slipping between realities, trying to piece together a life she's not sure she ever lived. First appearing in Comics' Greatest World in 1993, published by Dark Horse Comics, Ghost Story starts with tragedy and mystery. Dead, or at least she thinks she is, Elisa wakes to find herself in Arcadia, a grim Art Deco city filled with shadows, psionics, and people who would rather see her gone. Her body isn't entirely hers anymore. Nanomites coursing through her bloodstream give her powers that straddle the line between science and supernatural. She can phase through walls, become intangible, and teleport across the city. abilities that make her perfect infiltrator, and when she has to be, the perfect assassin. But Ghost isn't just a weapon, she's a person navigating grief, betrayal, and the thin line between life and death. The stone jade keeps her anchored, a small talisman that prevents her from completely ghosting away, a fragile tether to reality. Over the course of dozens of issues, Elisa fights enemies both human and supernatural, from the psionics Dr. October and the malevolent Cameron Nemo to the shape-shifting Furies and the mysterious criminals like Crux. She faces her own past in fragments, confronting the murderers of her parents, corruption in Arcadia, and the truth of who she was before death turned her into something else. Her powers aren't just flashy, they're deeply tied to her identity. Phasing isn't just a cool effect, it's how she moves through grief, through danger, and through the complicated layers of her own existence. Even with crossovers with Hellboy, Batgirl, and The Shadow, Ghost remains fundamentally her own story, a spectral figure walking between worlds, balancing the weight of memory and morality, while trying to do the right thing. And when Dark Horse rebooted her in 2012 with Resurrection Mary in Chicago, she didn't lose that essence. If anything, she became more enigmatic, a ghost searching for herself, questioning reality, and confronting a modern city with the same mix of vulnerability, deadly capability that made her one of Dark Horse's most compelling creations. Ghost isn't just a superhero, she's a reminder that being caught between worlds, between life and death, human and supernatural, can make you stronger, sharper, and more haunted than anyone who walks fully in one world or the other. And in Ghost's case, it makes her unstoppable. Gentleman Ghost, the poltergeist with the top hat. Some enemies don't just haunt your life, they haunt it forever. For Hawkman and Hawkgirl, that enemy is Gentleman Ghost, James Craddock. He first appeared in 1947's Flash Comics number 88. Though at the time it wasn't entirely clear if he was truly a ghost or just a clever trickster. Born into poverty and abandoned by his father, Craddock turned to crime early, becoming a notorious highwayman across 19th century England. His mortal life ended violently when he was executed by Nighthawk, who wrongly believed Craddock had harmed his love, Cinnamon. But death didn't stop him. Craddock's spirit returned, bound to the mortal plane until his killer's soul could find peace. As a ghost, Craddock became more than a criminal. He became a supernatural threat. He can vanish at will, pass through walls, teleport across cities, or even dimensions, summon spirits, and manipulate minds to do his bidding. He wields the flintlock pistols that killed him centuries ago, and travels in a ghostly horse-drawn carriage, making even his arrival unforgettable. Yet even with such powers, he has a weakness. Nth metal, virgins, and noble blood can stop him, grounding him in ways no ordinary force can. Over the decades, Gentleman Ghost has haunted heroes beyond Hawkman and Hawkgirl. He clashed with Justice Society of America, summoned armies of fallen foes, and even tested Gotham's Batman, briefly taking control of Alfred Pennyworth, claimed Wayne Manor as his hideout. He has also joined supervillain groups like the Injustice Society and the Secret Society of Supervillains, using their schemes to further his personal vendettas. Yet his obsession remains. Hawkman and Hawkgirl, the living echoes of Nighthawk and Cinnamon, ensuring that his vendetta stretches across centuries. Post-Crisis, the Gentleman Ghost was officially confirmed as a supernatural entity, transforming him from a clever trickster into a genuine spectral threat. From the cobblestone streets of Victorian England to the skyscrapers of Gotham, his story is one of style, cunning, and relentless obsession. He is a ghost whose grudges and his presence linger far beyond the grave, a villain whose legacy truly lasts forever. From the mischievous Casper to the vengeful Gentleman Ghost, comic book spirits have left a mark that's as enduring as it is eerie. These characters show that ghosts in comics aren't just for scares. They're a way to explore loss, revenge, and the mysteries of the afterlife, all while keeping us turning pages late into the night. If you enjoyed this trip through the spectral side of comics, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, so you don't miss the rest of my Tales from the Longbox Halloween special series. There's more haunted history coming. Vampires, cursed heroes, all kinds of monsters, and plenty of other spooky surprises. Comment below with your favorite comic book ghost, or who you'd like me to feature next. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.